Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back for another installment of SIKHICAST. Today we have Harpreet Singh, and we'll be interviewing him about his journey into Sikhi. And before we get started, you can just forgive us for any mistakes we make during the podcast, and welcome back. Harpreet, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
How's it going, man?
Oh, doing pretty well.
Okay, so we'll just kick it right off. So usually how these things go, the first thing I'm going to ask you is to tell us a little bit about how did you come into Sikhi? How did you learn about it, decide it was for you?
Well, I had always had the Sikh philosophy sort of ingrained in who I was, um, but I didn't know that there was a religion out there that actually had those beliefs that I held true to my heart. So I began studying different religions, and just I would always sort of hit a wall where I couldn't progress further, or the philosophy didn't make sense and it interfered with my journey, or with other people who holds different philosophies that I had. Um, so I came into Sikhi, and I just fit right in. I had long hair already, a beard. All I needed was a turban, and I was ready to go.
And about how long ago was that? How long have you been in Sikhi?
Well, let's see. I was 24 and now I'm 41. So,
Okay,
um,
a good 17 years.
17 years. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. We're all a little tired. It's like, wait, math, math, math. Okay. And then so how do you feel that I feel like I had a similar experience where it was just like I felt what I believed deeply inside of me, but I didn't know that there was something out there that already existed that would line up with that so perfectly.
Yeah.
Um, what about your first time in a Gurdwara? How was that?
I was very nervous, to be honest. Very, very nervous. And in many ways, I'm a little nervous when I go to the Gurdwara, even though I feel very comfortable at the same time.
Hmm.
And I think that has to do with like Sangat being so powerful, that there's some sort of special thing going on where, um, I feel like I have to put my best self forward. Um, yeah, it's a really humbling experience to be with Sangat, but it also a little makes me a little nervous because the power of and the presence of God is just so strong.
Hmm. Um, so how do you feel that Sikhi affects you in your daily life? Like, how does it inspire you in your daily life?
I don't know. I mean, it's just a part of me. Um, yeah, just having the teachings be the forefront of my, my journey. Um, yeah, it's comforting that to know that I'm sort of being guided in the right direction, and I don't have to do everything myself. That I'm part of something much greater than my own myself. So
Um, And so do you find a lot of comfort in being part of the Khalsa? And how do you feel that the Khalsa, how it's expanding globally? Do you have any kind of feelings about that, like the way that Sikhi has spread all over the world and particularly into the West in our cases?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a challenge sometimes because other religions, they're evangelical, so everybody sort of knows who they are and what they believe. And I see a lot of converts and attention being put on, those faiths which we know. But with us, we're sort of hidden, and so I think that um, it's a little slower for us to get out there and in the open and sort of show the world who we are. So I don't know if you would agree with that, but it seems to me, just based on my reactions from people, looking at my kirpan, looking at me, it's a constant, you know, education uh, moment. Um, and only a few people who come up to me and is like, "Oh yeah, are you Sikh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." "Oh, I love you guys." "Yeah, much respect." And like, I don't get that a lot, unfortunately. So I think in some ways we could kind of have to do a little better. I don't mean like we have to go knocking on people's doors or being, evangelical or anything like that. But I think we need to start inviting people to the Gurdwara and just like really getting out there and just showing people who we are.
Yeah, 100% I agree with you. And like you said, since we're not evangelical, it's kind of we're existing but live and let live. Maybe we're existing kind of in a bubble. Um, but yeah, just being out there and um, letting people know who we are. I it's the same thing. I very rarely have people recognize that I'm sick, and then you kind of have to um, connect the dots with that for them and be like, um, tell them, the guys that they drive the cabs and they wear turbans and beards, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, like in New York. So people from New York usually they know who Sikhs are. California, places where Sikhs have kind of settled in and become more of a part of the fabric of the society. But in the United States as a whole, we don't really see that. I know recently there's in I believe it's Fresno County, they swore in the first Sikh judge.
Hmm.
And so I think that's a huge step forward for us. And but still, I mean, it wasn't national news. It was just kind of like local, and then people were posting it on Instagram and things like that. But we we have to go out there and be who we are and live our lives and everything. But I don't know, through Seva. I think through Seva is the best way. Like during COVID, we saw a lot of Gurdwaras doing like mass car food lines where people would drive up and they were just opening the trunk and they were putting in milk and bread and cereal and rice and flour and all that. Uh, and I think a lot of people learned who Sikhs were then. But we do need to go out to the community. And I think, yeah, through Seva is where we're really going to um, show people who we are. Because, like you said, we're not evangelical, but we do believe in serving humanity. And by doing that and keeping our sarup, our appearance, I think that's really where we're going to be able to connect with the community and connect with, I mean, we're in the US, connect with fellow Americans and um, maybe break down some walls. Um, break down some walls as far as maybe fear of who we are and what we are, or because if we're being honest, there's a lot of mistaken identity and Islamophobia in the United States. Not that that's right, um, but Sikh phobia doesn't exist here. It exists somewhere, but it doesn't exist here. And we could really show how Gurbani is for everyone. You don't even have to be a Sikh to benefit from Guru Nanak's teaching.
Yep. And I kind of think like maybe people will disagree with me, but I mean, I think we should show up and sort of hand out pamphlets and just as people walk by, just here, take this and just learn about us, so you
Yeah,
know who we are. It's not that you know, because we don't believe that, unless you're a Sikh, you're not going to heaven. So that there's a reason there for us not to feel like we have to be evangelical, you know.
yeah,
We come and we say, "No, you are right. No, you're right. You're also right." Like it's not that we're right and you're wrong. That's not the spirit that we operate in. Um, it's a more of a union between all human beings, no matter what part of the world you come from. So, but at the same time, it does us our disservice when we have so many people who don't know who we are. We could do better.
yeah. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Um, there was a question, and it said, "I wonder what type of vows the Sikh judge took." Um, so luckily in this country, unlike in Canada, where I know someone was supposed to be sworn as a judge and they refused to pledge allegiance to the Queen, because they said, "I only pledge allegiance to the Guru," and so they ended up not going into their intended field per se because they wouldn't pledge allegiance to the Queen in Canada. There's not a Queen in Canada, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To the Yeah. So here, I'm wondering, like the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right.
Lots of people, you could stand up during the Pledge of Allegiance, but you don't have to say it. Even before I was a Sikh, I think probably in like 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I would stand up during it, but to be respectful, because I respect my country. I served my country in the military for over 10 years. But I don't pledge allegiance to any earthly power.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I feel like when I'm in court, you put your hand on the Bible and all that. Everybody lies. I mean, the Bible really is just a prop. You know, it, if I don't need the Bible to be able to show people that I'm truthful. So I think for the gentleman, judge, it's like it's almost irrelevant, when you ask a Sikh, are you going to tell the truth and abide by the rules and the laws of this nation, or you know, that's enough. Because we live in a multicultural society. Not everybody's going to be feel comfortable putting, get offering reverence to a book that's not theirs.
right, and quite honestly, I if I were a Christian, I'd find that offensive. The way that
Hmm.
they're sort of
Hmm.
using it as a prop, and like you said, if someone doesn't take the Bible seriously, even just touching it and doing that is like, yeah, what a mockery.
Yeah,
Uh, I certainly wouldn't want someone who wasn't a Sikh and didn't agree with the with Gurbani swearing on it, let alone touching it. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want them to do that. And so a lot of people, they're wondering maybe if they wanted to come to Gurdwara, would they have to pay obeisance or respect um, by doing Mata Tek, by bowing to the Guru Granth Sahib Ji? And I've told them, no, no, you don't have to.
that's
You,
exactly what I tell the guests that I
yeah,
bring is like, if you don't, I mean, why are you going to bow to a book that you don't know what's in it? I mean, that
yeah,
that's not a very good idea, is it?
no. And Sikhi doesn't believe in forcing anything. My
Yeah,
sister, she came
exactly.
to Gurdwara with me maybe 4 or 5 times, and the first time she went, you come in, you take your shoes off, you wash your hands, you may have already covered your head, or you cover your head, and you go into the divan hall, the sanctuary, and but she asked me, do I have to bow? I see everyone's bowing. I said, nope, you could just pick a spot over here and sit down respectfully and just face forward, and we prefer that you don't put your feet out towards the guru because it's kind of a cultural respect type thing, and that's about it. I said, the translation will be up on the screen. You don't have to sing along. You don't even have to stay for the whole service. If you feel like I need to get up and stretch, I'm, you know, take a break or whatever, that's totally acceptable. It's like, oh, it's pretty laid back. I said free
And
food afterwards, you
and
know.
that's one of the things I always resonated with Sikhism is it's not a pushy religion because again, goes back to, we don't feel that we own the secrets to salvation. We don't feel like we own God or we own this tradition or in a sense to where we say we are right. So
Right,
so one of the beautiful things that I sort of get from Sikhism is that we are right, but you are also right as well. You know,
right.
a lot often it's like we are right, therefore you're wrong. But why can't we all be right?
Yeah,
You know, and it's about really going within yourself, figuring out like what you feel really matters in life. And what are your priorities? It's not about trying to please God uh, like so many other faiths is. I don't think we need to please God. I think we need to just respect that there's karma uh, for your actions and to live a decent life where we regard all human beings equally and have respect for all of God's creation and take care of it.
yeah, yeah. Um, so in what you just said, that um, we're right, but you're also right. Like there are absolute truths that exist, absolute
Hmm.
universal truths that exist. And I found that as a Sikh, I was able to see those more clearly in the other faiths. Say, okay, I see here like where where that absolute truth is also there. And it's just there's many paths, but there's only one goal. And people define salvation in a different ways. And I've
Hmm.
had some people say to me, Sikhi seems really difficult. And I said, I don't know if salvation's supposed to be easy. Um, but that's the thing is when you have a relationship, you have your personal relationship with God, with Vaheguru, with maybe Christ or Allah or, you know, it's not an exchange. It's not transactional. I do something for you, you do something for me. It's it's learning, I feel it's learning how to love like God loves, which is unconditional. And human love is conditional. And until we can think in loving unconditionally and all the time, we're going to continue to not truly and fully comprehend equality, um, and seeing God in all human beings and all living things within God's creation. Like you're saying, if we don't feel that love, then how can you have the compassion, um, and be able to serve without any motivation? And that's why seva is so important. The selflessness. Like you can't want something from someone, even wanting something for yourself, saying, "Oh, this is making me a better person." It is, but even you have to work past that. That, oh, this is making me a better person, and I want to be a better person. That's great, and it does do that. But we want to be like the characteristics of God, and we say that he is, and I'm using he because we have such words, but he is desireless. So we must become desireless. Because once you're desireless, things are not transactional. And then I feel that truly you're free. Like that's real freedom, being desireless and without any kind of ulterior motivation or motive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think one of the really cool things is to always be in God's will, and that desirelessness is really, um, yeah. I mean, when you when you accept that God is the doer of everything, th- uh, there really is no good and bad because it's all God doing that. So that duality is gone. And when you get to surrender yourself in front of the will of God, you realize, wait a minute, um, my my desires aren't helping me. Just go with the flow of the divine current that's governing and sustaining all of creation. But you mentioned something that stuck out to me is that, yeah, I get that a lot, that yeah, Harpreet, your religion is really difficult, but it's only difficult if you're not getting anything from it. If you're getting so much out of something, then it's not really difficult. I mean, the discipline aspect is always something that is, you could say, is a challenge sometimes. But once you get going, you get so much out of it, and it feeds all of who you are, that it's not like, oh, I'm so bored by these practices and rituals. Oh man, I just can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like that.
Yeah, it's almost like I say that all the time. You could never get bored in Sikhi because there's always
No,
somewhere to go. There's always more to learn. And
exactly.
I get the feeling so often. I feel like within the last maybe 10 years, maybe less, people talk a lot about how being present or trying to be present is really beneficial for your mental health, is really beneficial for your well-being. That shifting into neutral, like you said, nothing is good or bad. It's an experience that you must have,
Hmm.
in order to learn something to prepare you for what's coming next. Um,
Yeah, and you end up
And
standing back and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm more successful at work. I'm a better parent. I'm a this, I'm a that." You're like, "Well, you know, I guess it isn't really that difficult if you really are, um, you know, uh, yeah, I mean, everything takes a commitment, but somehow, it's just not, ah, I'm lost for words.
you're benefiting daily in every
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
And
exactly.
whenever I'm in, say, the divan, the service, or I go to samagam, like the I call them meditation retreats because people typically know what that means. When I'm there, I feel that there is nowhere else I would rather be in this moment. And that is truly being present. And when you can do that, that's when you can connect, especially in the Simran. That's when you can connect because God's right there waiting and you're going to meet that.
Yeah,
And it's without expectation. Don't have expectation. I know a lot of people, they have told me, I've been trying so hard to connect in the Simran. I've been trying so hard to connect with God. I don't know what's go without any expectation. Go and sit and say, Babaji, I'm here. And then just be there, be present. And it's so hard to explain. It's kind of like try to explain what to somebody what honey tastes like if they never tasted honey. It's like if,
yeah.
but I mean, y-
I had this really cool experience today at Gurdwara. I was doing Char Sahib, and I was, when the next Sevak took the Char Sahib, I was sitting down watching Sangat. I was facing Sangat and while the kirtan was going on, and I just saw each and every person getting hit with these vibrations coming from the ragis, just hit. And they were like, each person was in their own world, and you know, each person was getting something a little different from it but the same, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is so cool." I was watching each and every individual just connecting in the way that they felt, called to to connect based on where they are,
yeah,
with their Sikhi, It's just
connecting
wild.
exactly the way they needed to.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
So yeah, but
that
when you feel like that, and I know each and every person feels something. When you like have this overwhelming feeling, it just makes all the discipline aspects of the equation that much more worthwhile.
yeah. Even if maybe like I said, it does seem difficult at first, they're absolutely worthwhile. And so I'm wondering, something that I went through, and I think maybe a lot of converts share this experience is that they converted, so they grew up in a faith other than Sikhi or maybe no faith, and their family and friends, maybe there's an adjustment period to how you changed becoming a Sikh. Like for me, my family, they're very good about the unconditional love because we're family thing. And they say, you're so happy, you're so much happier than you were before. If you're happy, we love to see you happy. So it's fine with us. How did your family really react to you, changing your lifestyle and who you were and also your appearance, if you'd want to share that.
Yeah, I got it easy. I mean, my parents supported me through it. They came to Gurdwara with me, and they said, this is for you, Harpreet. This is a good move right here. We support you on that." And then they saw the positive changes in my life. I had more focus, more direction. I started being more yeah, like you fellas, more positive. Um, yeah, I was maturing. Um, and yeah, they were like, yeah, there's something to this, and we want you to be the best at what you chose for yourself.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's always nice when you hear that people had a more positive experience with family and friends. How about friends? How did your friends react? Did you lose any friends over it, or maybe fall out of connection with some friends because it just didn't click with who you were becoming or wanted to be?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like I had to say goodbye to friends. Some friends just sort of naturally fell from, to the wayside, and just, it just naturally uh, fizzled out. Um, but yeah, I think that all my friends knew I was just a little odd, so they generally were a little bit more open-minded towards me anyway. They kind of expect me to do different things and be adventurous and try things. So I don't think I really had much problem with any friends.
Yeah,
Because they're like, ah, that's just Harpreet being Harpreet. You just have to accept it.
yeah. Yeah, I had similar because I'd always been kind of a little bit of a seeker.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah,
Sikhi in a book when I was 7 years old. I wanted to learn about world religions. My mom was like, "Okay, or go to the library and get a book. You want to know something? Let's." That was before the internet, really.
yeah,
Um,
yep.
you know, but once I got a hold of the internet, I was like, I'm gonna find out everything. So, yeah,
Hmm.
and it was a kind of the same thing. They were like, oh, once they learn more about it, they're like, oh yeah, yeah, this is totally your thing.
Yeah,
Especially since I've been more in sort of connection and maybe a little bit of alignment with the Nihangs. Not like I'm choosing sides or this, group is better than this. But I remember my dad saying like, this is totally for you because you've been riding horses and shooting guns and beating up boys since you were, since you could, walk. He's like, this is totally for you.
yeah. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and then something else I really like to ask is there anything that you could think of right away, some advice that you would have for people who are coming into Sikhi, or, you know, they have converted or they're considering converting. Um, and once again, we don't believe in conversion. These are people who have discovered it for themselves and are thinking about, maybe this lifestyle is for me. Maybe this is what I want to do with my life. Do you have
I
any
would
advice
say
for them?
just, yep, I would just spend time with themselves, you know. And I would say that if you're planning on taking Amrit, hang out with Amritdaris before you take Amrit. Just make sure you surround yourself with some awesome Sikhs who are knowledgeable, who are really positive attitude, and just ask them questions. What does this mean? How, and ask them personal questions. What was your journey when you took Amrit? How do you feel about your Amrit now versus when you took it? You know, what are you getting out of it? Why do you feel like you should take Amrit? Like, are you that much better of a Sikh just because you took Amrit, or is it like, what does that Amrit mean? And I think it's going to be a little different from each person, but um, it's better to get your questions out, and then I would say don't delay. You know, take Amrit, and take Amrit in such a way that you feel like, well, if I do make a mistake, we're all human. I'm not holier. You don't have to be holier. Thou art they.
Holier
Holier
than
than
thou.
holier than thou. There's room for improvement. And if you have to take Umrit again, take it again. Have the dignity and self-respect to be graceful with yourself and try it again and keep trying. And in my case, I took Umrit I don't know how many times, and I'm at a point where now I don't have to take it again because I got all that stuff out of the way. I really needed time to develop myself and overcome my bad habits. And a lot of these habits were just me being a Western person growing up in America,
Yeah.
right? They're just taught to you, they're expected of you. So, like be gentle with yourself, be graceful. Don't feel like you need to get it all done within one moment of taking Umrit. Like, oh, well, I have to just, you know,
Be perfect now.
be perfect. And it's like, and so
And if
many
I'm not, it's the end of
Punjabis,
the world.
yeah, so many Punjabis are like, oh, I'm not good enough to take Umrit. And, it's like, you know, nobody's good enough to take Umrit. I mean, that's why Umrit is given to us because you aren't enough.
Yeah.
You're not enough. So Guru Sahib gave us this Amrit so that we could be enough. It's like a highway. You take that Amrit gives you faster results toward, the ultimate goal. You
Yeah.
know, if
It's
I
a
didn't
really
take Amrit,
transformative experience.
totally, if I didn't take Amrit, it would have been like the same old idiot Harpreet for many lifetimes. But luckily, it took me, 5 to 10 years of me getting my bad habits dealt with,
Yeah.
right? So, I think people are just looking at Amrit as totally wrong, something that it's not. We
Mm.
all deserve Amrit.
Mm. I think maybe that if we reflect maybe on so Amrit is not baptism in the Christian sense, but if we look at kind of how that's viewed, it's that when Christians become baptized, that they're a new person, but they realize that now that I did that, I should be trying my best, but it doesn't mean I won't make mistakes. And if I do, I can ask God or the Lord, however they're viewing that, for forgiveness and do my best not to make the same mistake again. And I think that that's a really healthy view, that we, like you're saying, we could kind of apply to Amrit, because Amrit is a gift, and it is available to all Sikhs. Um,
But in Christianity, it seals the deal. Jesus
it,
died for your sins. That's it. If you're baptized, you're forgiven. Like you
yeah.
you you try your best, but you don't have to try too hard because Jesus already paid the price, right? But
Mm.
for us, it's like, yeah, we get baptized, but that doesn't mean there's no karma, is there? There's
Mm.
still You still are held responsible for your actions. So it
Yeah.
isn't like Guru Gobind Singh said, "Well, I sacrificed everything, and now that's it for you guys. Like, go and do all the bad work you want to do, and it's okay."
Right. I mean, I can see where you're drawing the conclusions there. Well, and someone said to me, um, maybe about a month ago, we were sitting and talking, and I had just met them. They were talking about the way they asked they asked if my family understood that Sikhs who are educated about Christ, if they understand how that, okay, so they believe Christ died for all your sins, he sacrificed himself for the sins of the world, and as Sikhs we can really understand that. We'd be like, oh, he's shaheed, he sacrificed himself for, and then they say that, but they really wish that their Christian friends would see that in Sikhi we've had more than one
Right.
person sacrifice themselves, way more than one person sacrifice themselves for humanity, for to save the lives of this many people, and that many people
And
sacrifice their entire families and their children. And I'm
and
not I'm
Guru
not
Tegh
comparing
Bahadur,
them.
he sacrificed himself not for Sikhs but for Hindus, a completely different religion.
Right. And
So that goes way beyond a lot
right.
of
And
religions.
yeah, and I guess it's just the kind of view of one singular person being the only person who was ever divine and then sacrificed, versus us, we're saying no, this is a sequence of divine people who sacrificed everything over and over, and then the guru after them also sacrificed, like I said, their family, their friends, all their children, you know just, I mean, people will say, "Oh, things are so bad now," and I go, "Yeah, but we don't have to run around chopping people's heads off anymore and worrying about being burned alive or put through an oil press or, all that stuff." I mean, that's not really going on too much. So
Well,
things,
there's two battles going on. There's the inner battle, which is constant. There will never
yeah,
be an end to the inner battle. But then there's the outer battle, which sort of fluctuates. You will have situations that happen which are difficult in your life, and you have to bring your understanding of Sikhi to that situation and try to resolve it in the best possible way. Um, and sometimes that's just not um, met with reason and logic, and you will have to defend yourself. Um, in different situations. So all of Sikhi I feel is relevant, to the way things are now, and you know again, like, we don't know when the next outer battle is going to be there, but we're taught to be ready for any circumstance that might happen, and if we uh, resolve our issues with the teachings of Guru Granth Sahib, we're going to come out successful.
yeah. And then the thing is like being disciplined in your mind. We do that through Simran and Seva, and that, but through Simran, being disciplined in your mind. So when those small things you're encountered with, and you see people, they're getting up here, and you're like, nah, I'm gonna stay down here, and you can stay
Yeah.
down here. Be, and even
Yeah,
talking about,
you don't have to engage in every conflict or
right,
conversation or interaction with people. You don't have to engage. It is okay to walk away,
yeah, or you'll
from
find
a
that it just
fight.
doesn't affect you at all. You're just kind of, you're like, I have no emotions into this. Like, this is, it's just stuff doesn't bother you.
Yeah, I'm not invested in this situation. Like, I can walk away.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
not
and
my battle.
do you kind of have a view on, since I feel like we're kind of in this vein, that it's Kali Yuga, the Dark Age? What does that? I don't know if you could just like sum that up. What you feel that us being in Kali Yuga really means? I know that that's a big question.
Yeah, what does that mean? I think it's just God's way of saying, like, be prepared for the worst, And if you can sit with yourself, meditate, be the best person you are, you will have a fighting chance of dealing with Kaljug, you know? I don't know whether Kal Yuga in actuality means things are getting worse, but with some issues, it does seem like with global warming, I think our survival's at stake. So it's possible that Kal Yuga isn't just a concept; it's a reality. But as far as things getting worse and worse, it's hard to calculate because
Right.
some things are getting better and better,
Right.
and other things are getting worse and worse, and then some things have a good side and a bad side, you know?
I feel the
So
most,
it's kind of really challenging if you want to use math to kind of figure it all out, and figure out if we're
yeah,
really headed down the, a direction of extreme ignorance and, you know, never-ending violence will come out of it. I'm not sure.
I definitely see the Kal the extreme ignorance, but the just the education quality and level just plummeting.
Yeah,
In our country at least.
we're
Um,
being dumbed down every single day.
right. And you just have to unplug. Like, you got to go to school. If you go to school, you have to go to school. Like, some people are able to be homeschooled, whatever, but just like the inundation of like all the news, and like it's not even news. It's just people
And
talking about nothing.
let me tell you this. The thing that I feel is the number one problem in America is not cell phones, computers with kids and all that stuff. I think it goes right down to diet, you know? Um, you take any animal in the world, it knows its optimum diet. It knows exactly what it needs to eat at exactly the right time where there's a nutrient deficiency. Now, us in America, we don't even know that corn syrup is bad for you.
Right.
We don't know. We're wondering why GMOs are so bad. You know, we
Right.
have we have food that are made in a lab. How is that good for you? I mean,
Right.
right? Our Wonder Bread is banned in Europe. It's banned.
Yeah.
Like yellow, all the dyes we put in candy for kids is banned in Europe. Like
Yeah.
it causes Alzheimer's, it causes cancer, diabetes, all that stuff,
Yeah,
you
the
know?
health problems we have in this
So
country, people are just saying,
how on
"Oh,
how on earth are our kids gonna compete with the rest of the world in terms of education and advancement if they can't even focus because
yeah,
they're
the
not getting
nutrient
the
deficient."
nutrients they need,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you can't be at the best of your ability, there is no way you can compete,
Yeah. Absolutely, I
right?
agree with that.
So like I think that is the number one problem. And I think that explains the crime rate in this country. In fact, I'm reading a book called Diet, Crime, and something else, forget the title, but it goes and it shows these experiments that were done in jails and how these experiments actually created good results and the just an increase in nutrients. They had reports where there were no return offenders in the jails. They had taken their dieting back out into the world and they didn't repeat the same crimes. I mean, so, I think it goes into our decision making, our emotional state, our psychological state, our physical state. I think it affects everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I know I feel my best when I'm eating properly, and if I don't, then I really feel it. But if you're used to feeling like garbage all the time because all you eat is garbage, then there has to be somewhere in there where you have that experience of eating something nutritious and being like, wow, I actually don't feel like garbage. Maybe I could do that all the time.
And it's exactly where theists argue with atheists. Atheists feel, they're just doing their thing, living. They haven't gotten a divine experience that shows them that God is present, you know, that gives them some sort of uh, evidence that there's something out there that is driving everything. Um, so they're used to feeling, same way, whatever. And um, where was I going with this? And so theists, get they. I think most of the theists have. It's not just philosophical. I think the theists also feel some sort of spiritual experience.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the atheist's fault for not believing in God. I think that God will present himself at the time that he wishes to uh, to show himself to people in their lives.
Yeah.
You
I know
know,
absolutely with me I had an experience as a young teenager, and once I felt that first time that I connected, and I was like, "Whoa, that's what is that? And how can I have that? How can I experience that again?" And that's when I really went on my search.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you're right
I
to have to
got
have
it
that
too.
experience.
Like I live in a neighborhood that's kind of interesting. There's halfway house that, growing up there was halfway houses everywhere. And
Mm,
then one of the house was a Christadelphian church, and it turns into a Baptist church. And it's just a one little house. Uh and so I went up there as a teenager, and I remember saying, like, I really want to believe in God, but I just don't feel anything, you know?
yeah,
And so they said, okay, we're all gonna pray, hold hands, and the whole bit. And I told them, I said, well, like, I'm so sorry, but I just don't feel anything, you know? And they said, well, go home, pray, and then come back, and tell us what if your life had made any positive changes or results, right? And so I came back and I said, I didn't see any change at all. And they said, well, you're just not trying hard enough. They didn't have answers, to, you know, so, um, but then I think my first spiritual experience was when I was a Hindu. Hello? Oh, hey.
वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह flexi
Why
students.
did you call why did you give it day?
Um, unfortunately, looks like we had a little technology difficulty, and I've lost Charlene G, but she is back.
Okay, cool.
so you're saying that yeah, they said, keep trying, and then what happened? I'm sorry, that's when I lost you.
Yeah, and I went back and I said, I didn't feel any different. There's nothing positive happening in my life. Um, yeah, everything is just exactly the same as it was, you know, before the prayer. And so I went. I remember my first experience was with when I was a Hindu, And I had this incredible, powerful experience when I was, yeah, like doing meditation, and there was music going on. I guess it was kirtan, and I remember just being drenched in bliss, just completely unable to move, um, just undescribable feeling, and I couldn't get up. Everybody was like, "It's time to go. We're gonna do this other exercise or whatever it was, ritual," and I just sat there, unable to really move. And then I got back up, and I was still in this altered state, and then I knew for sure there was something that goes beyond the physical realm in this world.
Yeah, you were onto something.
Yeah, and from that point on, I had lots of mystical experiences where I'm like, well, it can't be in my head, and it's. So when I look at atheists, I say, well, really, they're innocent, just like I was when I was a teenager. I wanted to believe in something. I even expressed that to people. I want to know God,
Yeah.
you know, but for lack of information or ability, they couldn't give me that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a deeply religious family, and I don't want to say deeply religious, like, especially my mom, she has a really deep connection, and she's, a personal relationship with Christ. And growing up, I just never got it. I'm like, I just don't get it. I had so many questions. And I would ask them, and I was able to ask them, especially with my father, to discuss those things. And I don't know, I just I felt that I still wasn't, though, because we were so kind of cornered into this idea that unless you accept Christ as your savior, there is no salvation. And that was really scary for me as a child. I didn't understand why that was, and it did scare me away from exploring, or I just didn't feel like I could explore, but I wasn't allowed to move in any direction that wasn't in line with my family's beliefs. And so in high school, my goal was just to honestly get out of the town I was in. I said, I'm going to get good grades. I'm not going to get into any trouble. I don't care about boys. And I'm going to go join the Air Force and see the world and experience. And I'm going to find out some stuff for myself. I just really wanted to go forth and experience things. Like I said, at that point, I had a lot of access to the internet, and it just all started clicking. But I never really understood my mom's devotion and what she was talking about, and and understand how someone could say they have a personal relationship with God until I became a Sikh. Then I understood.
Yeah,
Oh, Jesus is her guru.
yeah,
That's why. That's it. That's it. And in Sikhi we talk about, that one must have a guru. Um, I don't know. It all clicked for me over the past years. That I started, like I said, I saw it in a book when I was 7, and then when I was probably 21, I really started moving towards it. And then about 10, 11 years ago, um, stepped into the Gurdwara, put on the dastar, because the turban, because I felt that finally I really understood who I am and what I wanted for myself, and maybe that there's a responsibility to wearing the dastar. So do you feel like that there's a responsibility keeping our our sick appearance, because if people do know that we're sick, it's almost like that's a really good opportunity for what their first impression of a sick or sticky is.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely see the importance of keeping a sick appearance. You know, how are you gonna know who's who? I mean, it's really nice to when people wear their religious garb because you can immediately connect. Oh yeah, you're Hindu, right? Oh yeah, I saw the dhoti and the front mark.
Bindi,
What
tilak,
like you went to
yeah,
the temple or whatever. It's an immediate conversation piece. You
yeah,
can, so for us, it's like if everybody knows we're sick, well, they know if something bad happens, we gonna be the first responders to the scene,
yeah,
you know, and that we're the people that's gonna help.
yeah. It's
But
incumbent upon us.
yeah, but if we're like, oh well, I'm just lazy today, I'm just gonna wear my hair down, whatever. Then it's like, well, you missed an opportunity to really be of service there because no one could recognize who you were,
Yeah.
you know.
And when I'm out and
And
about and I
as
see other
as
turban
people
sick,
start to realize who we are, then they will realize, oh yeah, this is the first responder. He's a Sikh, you
yeah,
know. Yeah, you know. But right now, it's kind of like, well, who is this person who's, I'm just another religious person to them. So
yeah.
it goes right back to being organized and having pamphlets. I hate for us to be reduced to pamphlets, but I think
No,
it's a start.
on the Sikh Coalition I think it's .org. They have
Uh-huh.
pamphlets. They will send you about 100 at a time, and they have lots of different languages. I've gotten them in Hindi and English and Spanish because I felt like those were the most relevant at the time, and I carry them around with me. And I actually had the opportunity in such an an interesting situation. I was leaving the VA, the Veterans Affairs, and there was a elderly lady. She had just finished her appointment. She couldn't find her car. So she said, "Excuse me, young lady." And there were other people in the parking lot, a couple of guys, a couple, another woman. But I don't know, she came up to me and asked me to help her find her car. And I did. I showed her how the panic button works just in case this ever happens again. And then I said, "Can I give something to you?" And I gave her the pamphlet. And then I told her, anytime you need something, if you see someone wearing this, they will help you. And she was like, "Wow, you learn something new every day." And I was like, "Yeah, panic buttons, turbans, and she was laughing, and it was really, really interesting day.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like small blessings like that. And I was having a terrible day. And I was like, see, Guruji was like, okay, but see how I was able to kind of snap out of that and like, get into business. And then later that day, somebody's kid ran into the road and I ran and grabbed him. And it
Wow.
was all in this one day where I was just it was the worst day. And this lady, because she heard the tires screech on a car, and all these people were coming out of the shops nearby. And she said, all I saw was a lady in a turban with a sword snatch that baby up. And I was just like, oh, it scared me. I was like, but doesn't that just happen to every mother? Every kid's done it, ran into the road or ran out into a park. Every kid has done it. Every mother's experienced something like that. But yeah, and I was just like, I don't know. I think Guruji is giving us signs all the time of saying, hey, stay focused,
Yep.
you know, be ready, stay focused. He's talking to us all the time, but are we listening? And I've said this in the podcast many times, I'm sure. You know, there are messages for us. There are signs everywhere.
Yep.
You just have to be paying attention.
Yep. I feel that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I let God speak to me through the experiences, and then having the knowledge of Guru Granth Sahib, I can kind of sort out what messages God's teaching me and
Yeah.
communicating to me, you know.
And
Um,
it makes you feel so
mm,
grateful.
yeah, you can have a conversation with God, lots of different kinds of conversations with God.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's same thing. Like in that day, there were those two opportunities where, there was like that individual interaction with the elderly lady, but like in such a big way, you know, someone where I live, I am the only turban Sikh. So it was just like just this odd thing. Just like all I saw was a lady in a turban with a sword snatch that baby up. Like, and and I do get sometimes people do approach me, especially if I'm wearing bana, the full stick dress. They're just kind of like, I'm sorry, I have to ask. Like, are you going to Comic-Con or is this like, what is this? And I have the pamphlets. Mostly people, when they ask you, maybe they have time to talk, and that's why they went ahead and asked the questions. But
Yeah, I find like
and
I
having
don't
them,
have the time. I just
yeah,
don't have the time to give people exactly what I feel they need to know.
yeah,
Um, and then I sort of scrambling between what I feel is most relevant and what's least. So yeah, like you said, these pamphlets, I think I'm gonna go ahead and order them,
yeah. And it's the
because then I can just
SikhCoalition.org. And
okay,
like I said,
cool.
lots of I think they might have them in maybe 12 or 13 languages, and they have other resources on there about as a Sikh getting accommodation in your workplace,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
also small pamphlets on you can present to your workplace,
mhm,
um, things like that. So just to help us, and they have like little printable cards, and they'll send them to you too that you can keep in your wallet about the kirpan. So if someone challenges you, you can say, so here's this information on the kirpan, like um you can call the cops if you want, you can do this, you can do that, but historically the kirpan has been upheld as our ritual or symbolic um religious
article of
item.
faith.
Yes, yes, yes. And anytime that someone's tried to bring some sort of legal action against people with coupons, it doesn't work out.
Yep,
So at least at this time in this country, we're still doing good on that one. And the
yeah,
Sikh Coalition, once again, is one of the organizations that does so much seva to allow that to happen, uh, and raising awareness about who we are and that we aren't a threat to anyone. And I've said that on the podcast before too. We are peace loving, but we are not pacifists. Because what is the ultimate test of our humanity? That we would give our life for someone or someone's else. You know what I'm saying?
well, we are pacifists. It's just that we're like we do practice ahimsa, right?
Right,
In fact,
nonviolence.
ahimsa is everything to Sikhs, and I'll explain. Because when you don't defend your community against perpetrators, or your then you allow evil to happen. So it, that's not ahimsa. If you are letting somebody do something wrong, then you're you know.
You're
But
complicit.
yes, and if you stop that person in self-defense or defense of others, then that's actually creating a ahimsa. It's allowing ahimsa in the world to flourish. So everything in Sikhi is ahimsa. It's just it's in its proper context, and I feel like in Buddhism and Hinduism and um, Jainism, they only have one piece of ahimsa. We have the full picture of ahimsa. And that's not to come from ego, it's just a fact. Without
Right.
self-defense, you cannot have ahimsa. You can only have evil, because you're allowing evil to flourish when you do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in Mughal India, is that, you know, only the Kshatriyas were fighting back against the Mughals,
Right. The
Mughal
Kshatriyas, the
invaders.
warriors.
Everybody else were ill-equipped to handle that kind of energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Just a despotic massacre of anyone who didn't want to bend to their tyrannic rule.
right, right. So our gurus came in, well, you know, let's look at this for a minute, you know. And I think
Yeah.
they gave a really awesome, well balanced, well thought out message that we should be, you know, warriors for justice and righteousness, so that we allow all communities a right to a peaceful coexistent existence with other different types of people.
Yeah. And when we talk about Khalsa Raj, we're not talking about that Sikhi will rule or that Sikhi will be the dominant anything. It means that righteousness will rule.
Yep.
And so, like you were saying, like we were talking about Kali Yoga, it's like, okay, so that Kali Yoga means that you personally must uh, fight this inner battle and take on your own personal karma and work through that.
Hmm.
But that Carl Swaraj will continue to move forward, and it's that righteousness will rule, that the
Yeah.
evil won't win, not in the end. And I
Yeah. I
think
mean, it
that
was a
having this Sikh judge, I think this is a really big
yeah.
sign of.
Exactly.
I'm really, really eager to see what kind of good. His name is Raj, honest. So the guy's name is Raj Singh. To see maybe
Raj
what
Kareka Khalsa.
yeah, what kind of good he can do, and maybe start this chain reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping for that too. And in
I'm
fact,
really
like, a lot
excited.
of people are thinking, oh yeah, if we allow one person to rule, it's like, well, it'll be something like Sharia law will be in place or something. You know, everybody's afraid to have one religion ruling. But
Right.
going back to Maharaja Ranjit Singh, that was a golden period in India, because every community got something out of the government that was in place. It
Yeah.
really did serve everybody.
They were free to practice their religion.
Yeah.
Education. Um, Education was amped up. I mean, uh, charity. So the langar was the food. And if you think about a gurdwara, you know, you've been to India many, many times. You go to the gurdwaras there. There are people. They eat, sleep, bathe, and receive protection or security at the Gurdwara. They go out during the day and maybe do some labor jobs, or they're maybe begging, depending on what they're doing. But they come back and they sleep on the ground in the Gurdwara, or you know, wherever they could be accommodated. They bathe in Sarovar, they get langar, and then this, you know, it's secure there, it's safe. You know, the Sevadars are there and everything, and so they're receiving all of their basic human needs. You know, and so if all your basic human needs are met, then you can aspire to spiritual success, enlightenment, progression.
And it
And I
really
think,
did destroy the caste system in a sense, or at least some of it, because you take the poorest of the poor caste, you give them free food, clothing, all this stuff. You giving them a way to be successful. You save that money that you made, whatever little earnings you have. You put it into the bank. You start to progress a lot quicker because, and then the next generation, because when what what makes people fit into their caste is just having all these expenses. And so how can they progress if they're stuck, you know? And you see that in this country too, is like there's many communities here who are just many generations of minimum wage, workers. And if they had access to free food and a lot of the things that our gurus provided, I think that they would have more money for education, job training, whatever.
right, you wouldn't have this consistent generational poverty.
Yeah, this catch-22 thing going on.
Yeah. So there's a few places in the UK. One is in Slough, the Guru Manio Granth uh, Trust, where they
Hmm.
actually started. And they have their event hall, and a lot of times event halls they hold wedding receptions, graduation party, things like that. There, um, non-alcoholic things like that. And they actually turned that area, instead of an event hall, they switched it over into classrooms where they were teaching trades to underprivileged and homeless people: masonry, woodworking, computer coding, electricians, like anything that the people in the Gurdwara knew how to do. They would come and offer, their time, seva, to teach people who were struggling to get a job, or and teach them a trade, along with langar, the free food, and giving them clothes and stuff, letting them take a shower. Because to go to an interview, you got to get a shower, you have to have the appropriate clothes, you need someone to help you get access to the internet to hunt for jobs, type up your resume, stuff like that. They were doing that.
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
I would love to really see, and there's probably, I know there's churches that are doing it. I know some Sikhs that have been involved with some like Christian groups that are doing similar things. But I would love to see, and maybe there are, I just out of the loop, really see Sikhs dive into doing that. Like, let's bring, we have those core things, right? Security, food and water, bathing, place to sleep, but help them go beyond that. um, Helping them with learning a trade, or any of these things. Like, see the Gurdwaras really, instead of hiding in our little bubble and saying, okay,
Yep.
we're Sikhs and we're over here and we're not bothering anybody, so okay, you know really come into the community. And I see it happening, and like I said, especially during COVID. But like, let's really do that. And like I said, it's not so that we can make more Sikhs. It's not, it's for the benefit of humanity. Sarbatta Bala. So that
But
all of humanity will,
yeah,
the well-being of all humanity.
it's not that we want to make Sikhs. There's already Sikhs out there. They just didn't know that there was a religion to support who they are and what beliefs they hold.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's already Sikhs out there. So we need to reach those Sikhs and say, "Hey,
Hey, we're the we're the we're the friends you've been looking for,
right, right."
And that's one of the big reasons why this podcast, we're growing slowly but surely. The only motivation for the podcast is community, and helping people realize their, maybe their spiritual potential, or like where they want to go, and raising awareness about Sikhi, It's kind of funny, like now doing this, I didn't realize how many people were really tuning in, and some other places I've traveled and people have said, oh, can I take a picture? Can I do a video? But I've had people recognize me off of YouTube, and I'm like, oh, this is getting scary. Like, because, I just really wasn't expecting that. And actually, so we have some questions in the chat, and I don't know if you want to talk about this, but let's see where we can go with it. It's, someone was asking about the Republican National Convention and some comments that were made. I don't know if you're up to date on that. A couple people sent me some stuff and I didn't have time to really look over it. About hey Stu, do you want to help us out a bit? Or do we, or we're a little bit over time if we want to like maybe hit on this next time?
Politics is a never-ending subject.
Right, and yeah.
I want to say that you guys have had such a spiritual show today. It's been beautiful listening to you. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful. And I must apologize for souring the flavor by bringing up such unsavory topics. But I do like to think on a nice angle that the name Waheguru is being said in a negative context a lot all across America now, all across the world because of this. But that's good for their karma, say Waheguru, like I'm happy to hear it, At first I was slightly offended, but then I realized like, no, this is a good thing. This is going to make a lot of people know about the Sikhs, and there's going to be a lot of people compassionate towards prayer in other languages. I recently, said Ardas over a family meal, and at the end somebody slapped in Jesus' name, and I was like, oh, that wasn't necessary. I think that Nanak Nam, Chadi Kala, Teri Bani, Sabat Dawala, what is better? It's well-being of all. And, so I'm happy to hear the name of Waheguru. So I'm thinking that Sikh is the next big thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
And
I think
negative
people
exposure
will really look
is
into
still
it.
Exposure.
People will really look into it. The people who really want to think, okay, what is this really? I want to get both sides of this before I make a decision on what's going on here. And they're going to look into it and be like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe want to know more. Yeah, you're right. Negative exposure is still exposure.
There's no bad publicity.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you one more time, and we'd love to invite you back. Gee, it's been beautiful listening to you. I think that you've got so much to offer to the Panth in English, and I'd really love to. That's really the mission that I want to encourage us all is to really spread as much as we can of the truth in English. It's so important.
Well, I'm happy to be back, and if you want to write topics or questions, whatever, that would help me better be able to sort of explain, because I have a lot of topics that I've learned about that I can hopefully shed a unique perspective on.
Sure. Like the Sangha chats that we did, I think that maybe we're going to collaborate on maybe a topic and see who we can bring on to get those new unique perspectives. Because last time, we had, it was kind of really interesting because we had several cores, and and then someone who grew up a Sikh and his unique background, living in the United States. And I just think it went so well, and I think really pulling you into that with your perspective and how we are all really communicating respectfully, and being able to express our own opinions and feelings about our personal experiences. And I felt it was really, really productive, and hopefully anybody who's listening and spreading the word, that they benefited from it as well. And so we would love to have you on a Sangha chat, and we're slowly collecting more and more people who are, on the same page with what Stu said, spreading the truth in English and all the people out there who didn't know that is the fifth largest religion in the world with an entire belief system that's what you've been thinking this entire time. It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so do you just want to wrap it up, and then hopefully we will see you guys next week. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we're trying to line somebody up, a very, very, very special guest who's quite well known. I don't want to
Who?
get people too excited. But I've been working on this for a while, and I really think that it's gonna be epic. I'm really, really excited. So
Can't wait. So much to come, and definitely
yeah.
when we have the next Sangat chat, we certainly must invite Harpreet.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
If we may, Waheguru Ji Ka
Guਰੂ Ji
Khalsa,
Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji
Waheguru
Ki
Ki
Fateh.
Thank you, bless you.
Thanks for
God
talking,
bless you.
guys.
Good chat, guys.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Yes.